Greetings, dear friends, fellow programmers, and those aspiring to be. Today, we will be tackling an extremely interesting, fun, and educational topic in JavaScript. I'm talking about advanced patterns that are relying on scopes and closures of JavaScript. Closures are a very powerful feature in JavaScript, as you probably know already from all the previous videos, and when you combine them with the knowledge of scopes that we also covered in the previous 3 videos, you will basically become unstoppable in the world of JavaScript, because a whole new world of possibilities is going to be at your disposal. You will be able to make use of some of the advanced patterns that allow you to make your code very modular, very reusable, and very secure. And every good coder definitely wants those traits for his code. Of course, if you do not know the basics about closures and scopes, I kindly recommend you to go to my previous videos dedicated to those topics, and you will be perfectly ready and good to go. Now, let's master some patterns through practical examples. First up, let's discuss module pattern. This pattern allows you to specify certain parts of your code as private, and on the other side, you can decide which parts of your code you want to be public and accessible from the outside world. You can think of it as a way that allows you to specify certain parts and lock them inside of this module and hide them from the outside world. I personally love to use this pattern in my code all the time. If you saw the second video dedicated to closures, you will see the part where I'm discussing my code from Penny Planner application, and there you will see exactly module pattern, because that way you can enclose certain parts and make them hidden from the outside. On the other hand, you can specify which parts you want to expose and allow other parts of your application to be able to access. And now it's time to code. Welcome back to our development environment. I have prepared a nice example for you to master module pattern. So, as you can see here, we have this closure right here called counter module. Inside of it, we have locked count variable, which is going to be private and hidden from the outside world. And also, we have specified 2 publicly available methods. So we have increment function and reset function. Both of these functions are both declared and implemented in the return statement itself, but you have an alternative, which I personally like to use more than this approach, and that is to implement them inside of the function body, and then in return statement, you just map them to publicly exposed method names. So you can choose whatever you prefer. So now, when we run this code, we should basically increment, and reset, meaning we should print count 1, print count 2, and reset counter. Let's see. When I run the code, that's exactly what happens. Our closure remembers the state of counter, and it just updates its state. So everything works as expected. But when I uncomment this part right here and I run the application again, we can see that this log right here logs undefined. That is because the variable counter module.count does not exist in the global scope. And that is because counter module does not expose count variable. It is hidden, so it cannot be accessed from the outside world. Now that we have mastered module pattern, it's time to learn another one. Why not master function factories? Because it's a very useful pattern as well. And also, name of the pattern is very descriptive of what the pattern is supposed to do, which is it's supposed to allow us to reuse the same function definition and to allow us to have different behaviors that are getting out of that function. So we can use the same function to do different stuff. It sounds magical, right? But in reality, it's just us utilizing all the powers that JavaScript provides us with. And this concept, I feel, would be much easier to understand if we jump right ahead to our coding environment and see it in action. Now, what do we have here? We have a create multiplier function which receives a parameter called multiplier. And now when we instantiate a concrete instance of this function called double and provide it with multiplier 2, closure that is created inside of here is going to remember the multiplier of 2, and when you invoke double variable, it will know that its multiplier is 2. And when we create triple variable, which is going to have new instance of this function but with value for multiplier that is equal to 3, it will remember that because closures remember their states even when they're done executing, if you remember. And now when we just run those instances of functions with values, in both cases let's go with 5, we should receive 10 for the double and 15 for the triple, because double is going to multiply by 2 and triple is going to multiply by 3. So now when I run the code, that is exactly what we are getting, 10 and 15. That is because we have successfully created two separate instances of the create multiplier function. The first one is going to multiply by 2 and the second one is going to multiply by 3. And that is exactly what they are doing. Now, I hope you understand that basically function factories would allow you to do some amazing stuff and provide much more complex functionalities as parameters to functions than I introduced in this case. But what I want you to get out of this lesson is the basic core concept, and then you can extend on it on your own. Or maybe in the future I will film some advanced examples of function factory pattern. And the third pattern we will be using and covering today are going to be closures in event handlers. So if you are working as a front-end developer and working with front-end stuff on browsers and you are manipulating DOM, you know what event handlers are and how important and essential they are for every front-end developer, because whatever you want to do with your browser, you have to do through event handlers. So mastering a way to improve the code quality of your event handlers is certainly going to be very beneficial. So let's learn how we can use it. I will jump right away into our IDE and show you in action what I mean when I say event handlers with closures. So as you can see right here, we have a method called setUpButtonHandler. We're providing it with a button ID, which is going to be connected to the HTML element ID on the front end. And also we want some message that is going to be displayed when we click the button. So what we are going to do here is get the element with ID we provided as first parameter, and we assign event listener to that button. And also when we click that button, because it's a click event listener, we will just log the message provided. So what this means basically in reality is that if we had 10 buttons that do the same thing and we want to create event listeners on click event, so when somebody clicks the button, we do not want to create 10 separate event handlers because that would take 10 times more space and we're repeating the same functionality. We want to use the same pattern and do not repeat ourselves, so follow the DRI principle, so do not repeat yourself, and we want to make a single piece of code which is going to handle all the different scenarios. And this example we have right here is very simple, but you can use this in way more complex scenarios. Just imagine the following. You're providing the button ID and also you're providing the function that should be executed after that button is clicked. So basically, you can create as many event handlers as you like for as many buttons as you like, and each of those buttons can execute completely different functionalities when you click it. And you can do it with a very simple approach. And to do it, we're using closures. So basically, right now I'm sure you're wondering, is there anything that closures cannot do? And the answer to that question is, yeah, there certainly are things that closures cannot do, but there is also a whole bunch of stuff that they can do for us. So that is why I'm spending so much time trying to explain all the core underlying concepts important for closures and completely mastering them, because I know how long it took me to master this concept, but when I did, I really benefited from it a lot. If you found this video useful and fun and enjoyable, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel because it means a lot. And also, I would like to thank you for watching and, as usual, wish you happy coding!